This is the first part of our session on the media and elite mass communication. I think this is a really, really important section. Think about the importance of the media, the power of the media. The media really links citizens and their governments because you do not have first-hand experience about the president's performance in the war of Afghanistan, for instance. You learn about it through the media. So the media really mediates between the government and the people. I'm also calling this building media literacy because I think every citizen needs to understand, analyze the media in much more detail to guard herself or himself against manipulation. Our objectives in this part are to understand the role the media should play in a democratic society. Then we are contrasting this normative view to reality. What role does the media play in reality? We also need to understand the importance of a free press as a cornerstone of a democratic system. And we are going to start to examine changes in the media transition from the old to the new media. What role should the media play? Think about it. This lecture is going to highlight three important functions of the media. First of all, the media needs to inform and educate the public. If this is not the case, think about countries where the media is not free to educate and inform the public. North Korea would first come to mind. In North Korea, the secret police stop people from getting news from the outside world by preventing the import of radios from neighboring China and South Korea. Propaganda officials systematically jam South Korean radio stations and those from abroad. Criticizing or just misspelling the name of Kim Jong-un, the dear leader, or a negative remark can result in the culprit being sent to a political re-education camp or sometimes worse. Let's take a second example. Sorry, that took some time. What you see here is an image of an Iranian stealth fighter. And we should put stealth fighter in quotation marks because experts agree that this airplane cannot fly. I'm not an expert in airplane construction, so I believe what they are saying. And common knowledge now is that this is really a Photoshop picture. This is a model of an airplane photoshopped on top of this Iranian landscape. We know this here. Readers of newspapers in Iran, however, are presented with information that the Iranian military has developed a new, powerful, beautiful stealth bomber. Let me add a third example. On August 31st, 1939, Nazi officers, disguised in Polish uniforms, staged an attack against the German radio station at the German-Polish border. This event was broadcasted as evidence, so-called evidence, of Polish aggression against Germany, and was the pretext needed by Germany to start a war in Poland, which eventually would lead to World War II. So Germany could use this event to disguise its invasion of Poland as a defensive war. Reality was that Germany had long planned to invade Poland, and the country needed a pretext. German citizens listening to the BBC, the British Broadcast Company, which was illegal already by then, were well aware of the fact that Germany was the aggressive country, Poland was not. However, those relying only on German information sources, many of them believed the story of the defensive war, Germany protecting the country against Polish aggression. In addition to providing information, facts, just the facts, the media ought to provide a wide range of viewpoints, a so-called marketplace of ideas, so that the public can be exposed to a variety of views and issues, and thereby deliberate effectively before coming to an informed opinion. Because for many issues, there is not just one point of view. There are not just a couple of facts. Many issues can be analyzed, seen differently, and the media ought to provide this so-called marketplace of ideas. If this is not the case, only a narrow or singular point of view will be portrayed to the public. Take, for instance, the Chinese media and unrest in Tibet, a province of China. In the Chinese media, the unrest, rebellion in Tibet is downplayed or ignored by the Chinese media. Foreign media coverage about the Tibetan struggle for independence is blocked to the Chinese audience. And lastly, I want to add one third role, crucial, a watchdog role, to help the public to hold the government accountable. How would we know about governmental wrongdoing without the media? We would not. The media needs to uncover governmental wrongdoing. Probably the most famous example comes from the Watergate investigation. President Nixon had initiated and known about the break-in into the headquarters of the Democratic Party, located in the Watergate Tower in Washington, in order to steal documents related to the re-election. And then he used all of his immense powers as the president to cover it up. And he lied and lied and lied. How did we find out about it? Only because of two Washington Post reporters, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. They uncovered information suggesting that he had knowledge of the break-in, showing his attempts to cover it up. This investigation led deep into the Justice Department, the FBI, the CIA, the White House, and ultimately resulted in the impeachment of Nixon. In order for the media to perform these functions, the media needs to be free. First of all, consider that journalism, good journalism, journalism that is trying to report the truth, is actually a dangerous profession. For instance, in 2012, journalists who reported from war or civil war zones, or about the Mexican drug cartel, for instance, face many dangers. Just in 2012, 89 journalists, 6 assistants were killed because of their activities as journalists. How free are the US media? According to most observers, the United States has a long tradition of legal protection for press freedom, the First Amendment. Press freedom is enshrined in the US Constitution and state law and has more or less consistently been reinforced by decisions of the court. In terms of international comparisons, the US ranks among the free countries. Other free countries are France, the United Kingdom, Spain, Norway, and many more. FreedomHouse.org, an interesting organization examining freedoms all around the world, actually categorizes all countries in terms of media freedoms and puts them into three categories: free, partially free, not free. Most of the countries in the world are actually not free, or maybe partially free. Take a country such as Russia, not free. Journalists in Russia are permanently threatened, intimidated, and at least there's some anecdotal evidence for this, sometimes maybe even killed because of them not giving up on trying to pursue the truth. FreedomHouse.org categorizes the media depending on the amount and type of political, legal, and economic constraints the media faces. So FreedomHouse.org studies the political environment, the legal framework, but also the economic context. You can click on this link, which shows you a listing of all countries at your own leisure. I want to go back to the United States. The United States, as I said earlier, is classified as a free country. Observers, however, argue that one of the biggest threats toward a free media are economic constraints, or in other words, media concentration or a media monopoly. So freedom is never absolute. The United States media are free, but there are some concerns about media concentration and media monopoly. At a first glance, the US media looks incredibly diverse. Think about all the different book publishers, channels, cable, radio, and I could go on and on, more than 25,000 outlets. Yet if you really analyze it, only a few major corporations control most of the business in daily newspapers, magazines, television, books, and motion pictures. What is the fact of media monopoly? Should we care that more and more is owned, programmed by a rather small set of companies? I'd argue, yes, we should care. The dominance by few players distorts advertising rates. It forces small independent outlets to change their formats, quit or sell out, resulting in less diversity in music, news, and minority affairs programming. The pressure of corporate self-promotion means less critical coverage of the media industry in general and parent companies in particular. The media is a business, and if you really think about it, the purpose of the media is to make money. You do make money by carrying advertising. The more viewers you have, the more advertising revenue you will generate. So news content does not need to inform necessarily, but in order to make a profit, you need to appeal to the widest possible audience. How do you do this? You focus on soft news, reality programming, and human interest features. So from a democracy perspective, the media should inform, give us a diversity of different viewpoints, play the watchdog role. On the other hand, those three roles are not necessarily compatible with the media's desire and need to make a profit. So news becomes just another product line in the race for profits, not a public service commitment. And yes, it looks quite innovative, but I'd argue that innovation in packaging and branding disguises declining information diversity and distinctiveness of content.